Hi guys. Okay, so I'm coming to you from my car, and it's a little warm, and I got about 20 minutes to talk about everything I'm about to talk about in this video. So you guys know, like as my past videos have been about religion and Christianity and why it's important to have a relationship with God, but this is also another passion of mine, which is law and the study of law and order, social liberty, the whole nine. So I want to start this off by saying you need to be I'm burning up, guys. You need to be a pioneer of your own intelligence. Okay? You are truly responsible for your own intelligence, and that goes for all people. So, you know, I have my little script here because I can go off on a tangent, but we don't have a script here. So I want you guys to realize something. This is what I wrote. How fascism and the history of fascism has overrun our education and mainstream media to halt progress and reverse equality thus far. So fascism, essentially, it has many components, but it is essentially trying to control people and put people into places that will only benefit a minority through suggestions as like purity. And I don't want this to be like solely a race thing, because you can also see this in like religion values and like the reason why there's such a huge dysphoria in like religions and why people can't like seem to sorry, I'm trying to make sure. Okay, I try to make sure my phone doesn't like overheat, but trying to make sure that when the people like, oh, I'm this religion and so I don't align with this religion at all, when like essentially most religions are stemmed from the same principles. But fascism, sorry, and excuse, I am tongue-tied and I'm not the best at pronouncing things, but fascism essentially is about controlling people to put your own agenda, which I really speak about, and keep people who can help. Not even you, in no way are you trying to truly benefit people. You're trying to only you're not really benefiting people at all. You're really just trying to benefit yourself. And so people who are akin to you, whatever you want to base your principles from, you try to convince people that if they align with your values, they will be benefited, but essentially you just want to benefit yourself. Okay. So do you see how that has overrun our education system and our mainstream media to halt progress and reverse equalities thus far? You can truly see that in the politics thus far with a lot of the laws that they're trying to pass in state legislature and overall in the federal government by I know here in Florida we're doing certain things to try to we don't want to disencourage sorry, this is like a lot in my brain. My brain is not super, I haven't even eaten today, so sorry, but disencourage gender studies, African American studies, but not only in our K through 12 education system, but also in our public universities, because again, public universities are government funded, tax funded heavily. They don't want to promote things like gender studies, African American studies, Islamic studies, and there's also like the big things that we of course should not be studying, which is like promotion of ISIS, or like just like things that, you know, cause conjunction in our on our globe, but things that will honestly help us relate, but would start to shift the rhetoric of where we are as far as like in America, the imperial core, but also in our global affairs. Fascism only tries to, because when you do that, you cease to see yourself as the sole power and the controlling power. And so that's why fascism does. It tries to keep the people who are... fascism essentially goes against power sharing, essentially. And we see this in religion, and we see this in politics and social sciences. Okay, so this is my TED Talk. So hierarchy is insufficient. Sorry, I'm reading it. I'm like, does that sound right? Hierarchy is insufficient, especially in America, because it is based on rules that are inconsistent with the natural order. So, hierarchy is huge in fascism, but that's just like, this is just like one expert of like kind of my thing. I do want to go more into this later because this is like a very interesting topic in my opinion. But overall, hierarchy, then the social hierarchy, that the social systemic hierarchy that we follow is insufficient because it's based on rules that are inconsistent with the natural order. So we uphold a systematic order instead of the natural placement of people. If we can replace judgment with acceptance, we can kill the belief that we need to be a person outside of our own selves to live up to a placement in society that is based on race, wealth, or political standards that are inherently immoral and misguided. So this goes for all people. People cannot truly figure out their own identity because there's a social hierarchy that they place you in, and it's not based off where we can naturally find ourselves. So when you start to truly be in tune with your identity and you say, hey, where they place me in a society is not where I truly belong, and you try to change, you really are met with so much opposition. It can be extremely discouraging, but it is necessary. It is necessary. Okay? So, if we free our thought and provide basic rights to every person, we also ease the economic differences, because economic disparity also is very toxic to the liberal democracy. So if you haven't figured it out, I think, and this is my opinion, that we need to truly liberalize our democracy. And the far right tend to more so align their values with fascism, and then they say the far left are crazy liberals. But a liberal democracy is more efficient for our global relationships. And I think when we stop so much worrying about the homeland and America, I think we can really figure out, and I don't want to say like the homeland, because, you know, Africa is a homeland, which I know, I get it, but I'm speaking as in like, if you're a fellow American, if we do, even though the homeland, America is the only homeland to Native Americans, but that's another story. If we only focus on America, we essentially get nowhere. Does that make sense? Okay. So when we figure out that, and we've seen in many cases how being a true state of liberal democracy is essentially very, essentially is what you truly should build your imperialism from. We see why we are having so many issues and trouble with just truly acknowledging progress, and constantly, instead of constantly having this battle on all fronts. So as in like battle between rights as in men and women, battle as equality between race equality, socioeconomic equality, in those battles. And there's so many things that I feel like if we just take a second and realize that the systematic hierarchy and values that we have ingrained into the American society and essentially globally does not benefit anyone, including the people who it is meant to benefit. Not in 2023. Because essentially the system was built around the pretense that there will always be free labor. So now that is a major shift, that we don't even have the free labor that our basic the most basic values of our country stands among, and not even just our country but globally. We have to rethink what authorities we will allow ourselves to be governed under. And I'm not talking about people, but I'm talking in figuratively, as in the values. Okay, so that's my spiel on like why we should be in a more true liberal democracy. Instead, we are in a sorry, brain fart. But anyways, so and that's why economic disparity is a huge, sorry, trying to make sure my phone isn't overheated. It's a little hot, so I'm gonna try to wrap this up. So trying to make sure that we don't have any economic let me see if I can put something behind it so like the sun can block it. I don't know, maybe that'll help. Yeah, that should help. Okay. That should help. So economic disparity is a huge issue to liberal democracy. It's so bad. You cannot have huge economic disparities and think that we could even get anywhere close to having true equality. Not just, we see this because we have so much allowed this globally for so long. Now it's starting to bleed into America, and we're like, oh my God, this is like really bad. It is so bad. And then we trying to like dwindle it down and water it down to like true man versus self chaos, as far as like we have these debates amongst ourselves and our friends about how to pivot but still keeping the same illogical preferences, instead of like truly addressing that we live in a state that is inefficient and it needs to change, and we as people can change it, instead of like, oh well, let me try to do this, instead of like actually addressing the problem holistically. But anyways, chill. Okay, so in religion, we can see how Christians, and then I'm gonna wrap this up. In religion, we can see how Christians should be doing this, and if they were truly liberal, and I come at religion because religion plays a huge part in state legislature. Okay, so in religion, we can see how Christians should be doing this, and if they were truly liberal, truly liberal Christians would help the social progressions. It would mean they would equally share and accept other religions as powerful and as just, although this would cause Christianity to seize its dominance, at least in America. When you, as a person who follows religious beliefs, but you don't take the time to truly cultivate and dig deeper into more of a theological standpoint to truly understand why do you even align with these principles, and why is our principles so much deeply ingrained into our society, you truly will not understand globally why things happen. And when you don't understand internationally, I think you're gonna have so much trauma to deal with that you're gonna be incoherent to the actual problem, because you're not going to understand. And biblically, as far as I know, knowledge, people perish from the lack of knowledge. So please use your time to try to acknowledge at least other people and other people's beliefs. Okay, so but the problem is, if people step away from that and really open their mind, it would cease the reality of true dominance of power. And so sometimes people hold on to the fact that it's my way or the highway, because it's not that it's inherently wrong. I don't think it's right. It's not that it's inherently wrong. I don't think it's right in any situation, but it's like you're just doing it because you think it gives you power over someone who doesn't think like that. So do you see why I don't really think it's right? Okay. So, feeling of resentment and depression is not in any way, so this is going back to the political sphere. Feeling of resentment and depression is not in any way true discrimination and coherently does not sustain, and I'm probably like all over the place, but these are just a few points I want to make and then I'm gonna go. Feeling of resentment and depression is not in any way true discrimination and coherently does not sustain the theory that whites and Christians are being targeted and are being treated unfairly. We have to make sure that there is no us versus them rhetoric within our ways of thinking. Does that make sense? So it is extremely illogical because you are not the top man, that because you're down here, that there is some outside. So you're not a billionaire, okay? You make 40 to 60K a year, okay? But you're also, you and the billionaire can only align on the values of religious beliefs and racial benefit, okay? So when you can't align yourself on actual socioeconomic platforms, you start to believe that it is the uprising of other people, so people who are Muslim or Islamic, people who are black, people who immigrants, any reason why you and this man who essentially have the same probable values and you benefit from the same principles amongst the system should be more equal, but you're not. So instead of saying we're not equal because there's huge socioeconomic disparities, and then if you can't understand that and start to dig deeper into that, you're always going to think there's some third party phantom reality that is inherently not true. Does that make sense? At least in America, it's just not true. It's just not true. It's just not. It's just not. It just isn't. I don't know what to tell you. It's not. It's I don't know what to tell you. But anyways, I need somebody else to just back me up or something. Because, child, I don't know what to tell you, child. Anyways. So, if you believe that you fit into this category, if you believe that you fit into the category of Christianity and or people of a certain demographic in American, if you believe you fit into those categories, you have an impending feelings of attacks based on your race and religion, then you are simply intolerant to understanding the clear evidence of scholarly research. And not, I don't want to give you statistics. I want to give you, I don't want you to say statistically that still may have a basically, what do they call it? Linguistic racism in their rhetoric. I don't want to hear statistics. I want to see real research, both pro and against your reason for why you feel like you are still being discriminated against, and it's not the people who actually are systemically being discriminated against and have been since the birth of the nation. Anyways, scholarly research that proves the actuality of advantages for those nationalist groups. And I'm talking about Christianity, and I'm talking about people of a certain demographic in Americans. Because no matter what, and essentially, now nothing is universal, but essentially, no matter what race you are, if you are born in America, if you are not a natural born American citizen, no matter what race you are, essentially you do still have more privileges than people who are not within our country. Essentially. Not universal. And I'm not trying to make a general statement. But the last point I'm going to go, is social culture is inherently been for people as close to popular and ingrained in our lives as standard. Okay, so social culture is really ingrained into our American standard. And I also globally, just like American popularity is really like international popularity as well. It goes hand in hand. American popularity and national. Just because you're popular internationally does not mean you'll be popular within America. But if you are popular within America, more than likely you are popular internationally. Also not universal, but more than likely. So anyways, because we are moving toward a culture where this is discouraged, and we encourage egalitarianism. I just learned this word. Egalitarianism. egalitarianism truly means, it essentially means equality of all people. Instead of the one people, one culture standard, the people who have inherently benefited from these injustices feel marginalized. So when we move towards a truly equal system, or it's possible to move to a truly equal system globally. It can't just be a truly equal system within our country or our continent. Globally, a truly equal system. And remember, when you do that, you essentially have to take away the systematic order and replace it with natural order. Okay? The people who have benefited from the injustice of the systematic order will begin to feel marginalized. But that is a trauma response. Do not fall for the deceit, because it's like you're benefiting from the injustice of other people. How that is unsustainable, essentially. It's unsustainable. So now, I don't want to hear the rah-rah about Black Americans, but I will say that even in the Black community, and I don't want to hear too much, but essentially, even in the Black community, we have seen, and in many ways, especially through religion, we have seen that there has been a lack of acknowledgement in cultural mainstream society. So I'm not on social platforms, and basically what I'm saying is, Black people will unacknowledge and encourage social progression based on religion, or based on even the systematic aptitude, or that they have, the more closer to whiteness they are, the more they try to feel like they are higher on the systematic ladder. It is essentially harder for Black Americans, and all Black Americans, me included. This is when I really had to take a step back and look at this. Is like, it is hard to identify with people who are simply not Black American. And I mean, like, Black people internationally, it can be extremely difficult for Black Americans, because I can only speak for Black Americans, I'm American, to really correlate themselves with international Black people. And that's a huge issue, because it's like, my question is, how deeply ingrained is the American pride and American nationalist process of thinking, and how is it hindering our global relationships? Am I truly using all of my experience and of the American life to help people internationally? Am I? Or am I wasting my actual, true, invaluable, priceless experiences? Okay. So overall, we have to hold ourselves, and I don't want people to hold yourself and all the people. No. Because people are gonna pull you down. So what I say is, overall, we have to hold ourselves accountable for the us versus them rhetoric. So I will link this, all my notes in the description box. I'll also link a book you can read, and that's all for you guys. Bye.